Beverly, you often talk about the POCS process. Can you explain more about that and what that means?
Well, first of all, I need to give credit to the person I got it from. Her name is Linda Thurston. She's the author of a program called Survival Skills for Women. And what I learned from her and kind of have adapted with POCS is the idea that, first of all, the clients we work with are responsible for their own problems. We are responsible for teaching them, working with them, helping them practice problem solving, but the problems are not ours. Often what happens is when people bring us a problem, we think to ourselves, oh my God, what am I going to do? Instead of, oh my God, what is she going to do? What is he going to do? So we take ownership of the problem. Now I think we do that because we're caring people. We don't want people to come to us for help and then we don't respond to them. And so I think that traps us into solving problems for them rather than working with them to solve problems. So POCS for me was a simple way of teaching problem solving. It basically has 4 elements. We look at the problem, then we redefine it as a goal. Example, client says, I have no transportation. Well, that's not solvable that way. That's just a problem. The first step of POCS is we ask questions of the client to figure out what are we trying to accomplish? What is the goal? So if the person says, I have no transportation, I ask some questions. Where are we trying to go? What time do we need to get there? What time do we need to leave? So that we can figure out what exactly are we trying to accomplish here. Because sometimes if I respond with ideas, when people say they have no transportation, I don't know where they're trying to go. Are they trying to go job search? Are they trying to go to the liquor store? Where are we trying to go? So I can figure out whether, first of all, that's a problem I want to get involved in solving and what it specifically is that we're trying to do. Second step of POCS says we look at options, all the different ways we can get to that goal. So the question I might ask of the client is this. What are some of the ways you think you could get a ride to do your job search Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock till noon? Because now we've clarified what exactly they're trying to do. Now the important thing I think for me in POCS is that I don't give them the options first. Because if I give them the options first, then I decrease the likelihood that they're going to think of any options. So I try to get as many ideas from them as possible. Sometimes that's hard work. Because again, lots of the people, not lots, but some of the people we work with are not accustomed to having to think with us. Now, I think they think in other parts of their lives. It's when they come to us that they get, comfortable not having to do anything, that they can just lay problems on us and we'll struggle with them and figure them out. So, second part of POCS says we look at all the options. Third part of POCS says we look at the consequences of each option, because every option has a downside. Now, my tendency is to ask people, for every idea they think of, what could go wrong with this? And the reason for that is people tend to think of why it won't work, and so we just build that into the process. So if the person says I could ask my mother, then I ask, what could go wrong with that? I could ask my cousin, well, what could go wrong with that? I could take the bus, well, what could go wrong with that? Now, I happen to like that approach because that's what people do when I give them options. They tell me why they won't work. Now that aggravates me, but since they are criticizing their own ideas, I am less aggravated. Because every option, there are no perfect options. There are no perfect solutions. Every option has a downside. And the last part of POCS is, of the options that are available, considering the consequences that I've got to decide on something. Now again, the solutions have to come from me. So I ask people, we've got 6 ideas here. Which 3 do you want to try? So again, that's helping them prioritize them, because only they can decide which consequence they are willing to bear. Okay? Now, I may not think that the options they choose are very good, but I'm not in their position to know that, for example, taking the bus may not be the best option for me. May be the best option for you, but given the consequences, that's not the best option for me. It may be the best option for me is to ask my cousin. Now, you may not think he's very reliable, but I get to make that decision. Well, what if I'm wrong? Then I learn something from him. I go back to the drawing board and we look at different kinds of options. I think sometimes we get into the place where we think this is the best way for this person to solve the problem. But I'm not in their life. I'm, not in their situation. So I think I'm better off teaching them the process of problem solving and letting them fill in the blanks. Now, here's the other piece with POCS that I think is important. It doesn't work if we don't practice it. If the client comes back a second time and I solve the problem for them, I just undid what I taught the first time. And this is tough sometimes because people, this work, and sometimes people don't want to do it. And so I'm going to have to, I think, stick with it and say, okay, what are your options? Where are we trying to go? What are we trying to do? The client gets exasperated, but if I really am interested in people learning how to solve their own problems, and most staff that I talk to are interested in that, then I've got to be consistent about using that process with them.